Most houses built in the last 20 years are at risk of being leakers.
The crack down that corner of the cladding.
Yeah. Shockingly, leaky homes are still being built. 89,000 homes throughout New Zealand are suspected of being leaky homes, and the estimated repair bill is in excess of $23 billion. And it's not just homes, it's public buildings, schools, hospitals and other public amenities and commercial buildings. And now we're just faced with the blame and finger pointing. No one's actually prepared to stand up and say, yes, we have played our part in these failures and let's get on and fix it. My mission is to find out what went wrong, who's responsible, and what can be done about it. This is a major disaster of epic proportions. To wipe $23 billion off the value of the New Zealand housing stock is a catastrophe in anyone's books. Hi, my name's John Gray and this is my home. This was supposed to be the perfect home for me, an inner city development, close to all of the amenities, and yet I still have nightmares about it. I was surprised to learn that my house was leaking, and it was simple detail that let it down and allowed water to penetrate. And I became very, very angry at the industry and the system that allowed this to happen. So I took my claim to the Weathertight Homes Resolution Service and I won. I then went on to set up the Homeowners and Buyers Association of New Zealand, which is representing the thousands of good New Zealanders who through no fault of their own have been trapped in this nationwide disaster. This is a story from our files at Hobands. A typical battle is forming around Colin and Diane's house in Howick.
It's an unattractive house, quiet. It's hard to believe you're actually living in this close to Howick.
Very elegant, very handy to our family and spacious. It was beautifully presented and beautifully kept.
It's a chilling moment when you authorise the demolition team to tear down your dream home.
It was an accident that started it. In the process of fitting a shade sail, the guys who put it up accidentally damaged one of the pillars holding up the balcony. And the guy who repaired it said, you really want to have a look in here because this timber's very wet. Plans show that those 5 pillars there were steel posts, but they turned out to be timber. Treated timber though. The only treated timber in the house, I think.
The demolition guy told me he was doing one of these a week. The first thing to try and understand is how this could have happened. I'm an airline pilot by profession, and this is a model I borrowed from the aviation industry where it's used to understand systemic failure. Imagine each barrier to failure is a slice of Swiss cheese. There's always a hole in a barrier somewhere, and we rely on there being enough barriers so the holes don't line up. But if the holes are big enough or the barriers are flimsy enough, the system fails. We place a blind reliance and trust in the aviation and maritime industries, and it's well deserved because of the professionalism and the tight regulations that surround their activities. However, the same cannot be said for the building industry because clearly Parliament has dumbed down the industry and actually taken steps to deregulate it back in the 90s. So clearly at least part of the blame lies at Parliament steps. The 1990s was the age of the free market, so the government took a light-handed approach to regulating the building industry with wide-ranging reforms aimed at making it easier to build. Among other things, they abolished apprenticeship schemes and changed the building code to allow for creative designs in houses.
That's what the people were looking for, and that's certainly what the national government of the day gave the people, and that was exemplified in the Building Act.
John Green has over 35 years' experience in this industry, and as a Weathertight Homes adjudicator, he's seen the fallout.
We had an industry that was largely underskilled and under-resourced. Companies that simply weren't taking on apprentices, and there wasn't the same on-site training that had been a function of the industry for years before that. And we were seeing a number of key tasks, particularly cladding-related tasks, done by the lowest skilled.
The new taste for Mediterranean-style homes called for novel designs using materials and systems that were untried on the New Zealand landscape. Christchurch building professional Mike Antisich has got strong opinions on leaky home issues, and he's got the pedigree to back it up. What have we got here, Mike?
It's a multi-unit development. Some of these are tilted.
He's been a builder, a building surveyor, and was at one time an assessor for the Weathertight Homes Resolution Service. Some cracks in the wall here.
That's typical. So the water just comes down, gets straight up underneath there.
Was the flashing on before the
Yep.
plaster went on?
Yep. None on the top, of course. Why would you? This has got a big, ugly slope, so all the water collects in this corner here.
So there's just a hole here through which moisture will flow.
Exactly. There's no threshold protection between the deck and the floor inside. We should have a drop, in my view, at least 100 millimetres, 4 inches. Well,
So this is the under deck area.
this is all a result of the leaking deck. Every one of these buckets is placed there to pick up drips of water, and sometimes they have to replace these at regular intervals during the day. Water's entering every one of these windows, and the sadness of it is this is all new joinery. This was only put in 2006.
Are leaky homes still being built?
Absolutely. Every day.
Well, you just cast your eye across the landscape here, and even from here, you know, can you see those sorts of houses that will be presenting with problems?
Well, wouldn't you look at it yourself and just say that's about 80 to 90% of them?
I'm asking you.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
They are. They've all got those same design risks, the same materials, the same means of construction.
What is the whole Canterbury region going to be suffering in terms of the leaky home problem?
Well, I see the biggest problem is that they're going to run out of time. It might take 15 years down here, it might take 20, but it's happening. There's no question about that. There's just no question.
As part of the government's changes in the 90s, councils were given free rein to interpret the new building rules.
When this all started and we needed to find out who we were going to try and recover our money from, we went to the council to get the records, all the council records, which we got on a disc. And then when you actually look at them, the plans are there, and there's a whole bunch of paperwork, but there's nothing in it.
Here is the application for building consent that was on the file. We have the name of the owner, but no other contact details. But the most important part is where the key personnel is supposed to be entered: the designer, the builder, the drain layer, the plumber, gas fitter, electrician, and the certifiers. Manukau City Council holds all building records for the area, so they should be able to fill in all of the gaps.
This is the paperwork.
There's nothing out on a separate database?
No, this is everything that we've got.
Oh, okay.
There was a final inspection done by ABC certifiers. Did you have a copy of that as well?
No. Is that a list of inspections?
Yes, it is, but I'm surprised that you haven't got that.
Yeah, well, definitely those inspection records aren't there. Why would a council let that inadequate paperwork be processed?
I suspect that the councils had no reason to conclude that a greater level of record keeping was required. The need to be able to track who actually did the work has really only become apparent as a result of these leaky building cases, where so many people that were involved in the building work are no longer there.